The bitter Oregon wind howled as 14-year-old Zoe Clark spotted a ball of white fur trembling under her family's porch. The tiny kitten was ice-cold, his breaths coming in shallow gasps. Zoe rushed him to the local vet only to be turned away. "Try Pine Ridge Wildlife Rescue," they said. As Dr. Lauren Mitchell, the center's director, examined the fragile kitten, she knew the odds were grim. But neither of them could have imagined the miracle waiting just down the hall. Marshmallow, as the staff named him, fought for every breath in his incubator. Meanwhile, in another part of the facility, Jasper, a 30-pound wild bobcat rescued from an illegal trap, suddenly became restless. When Marshmallow's weak mews reached his ears, the fierce predator did something extraordinary. Instead of ignoring the sound or showing predatory interest, Jasper pressed against his enclosure, making soft chirping noises usually reserved for bobcat kittens. Wildlife technician Val Ortega froze in disbelief. "This shouldn't be happening," she whispered. Jasper had been Pine Ridge's most challenging case, a fully wild adult bobcat who refused to acclimate to humans. He was scheduled for release back into Deschutes National Forest, but after Marshmallow arrived, everything changed. The bobcat refused meals unless the kitten was nearby. When vet tech Lindsay Cooper tried to move Marshmallow for treatment, Jasper erupted in a protective snarl that rattled the enclosure. Head rehabilitator Zachary Bennett shook his head in awe. "That's not just instinct," he murmured. "That's something deeper." Marshmallow's condition worsened overnight. His tiny body grew cold despite the incubator's heat. As Dr. Lauren prepared for the worst, Val made a radical suggestion: "What if we put him near Jasper?" Skeptical but desperate, they moved Marshmallow's incubator next to Jasper's enclosure. Within hours, the kitten's breathing stabilized. Jasper remained pressed against the mesh, his deep purrs vibrating through the glass. When Marshmallow weakly lifted his head toward the sound, Jasper gently licked the air between them. Against all odds, science and nature itself, a bond was forming. Dr. Lauren reviewed the security footage in disbelief. There was Jasper, a wild North American bobcat, carefully grooming Marshmallow through the cage bars. She called in Dr. Tim Reed, a hardened wildlife biologist. "You're imagining things," he scoffed until he saw Jasper nudge his water bowl toward Marshmallow's incubator. The seasoned scientist's hands trembled as he whispered, "In 20 years of studying predators, I've never seen anything like this." The impossible friendship was rewriting everything they knew about animal behavior. Release day arrived. Jasper was sedated and loaded into a transport crate for his return to the wild. But when Marshmallow's distressed cries echoed down the hallway, the groggy bobcat suddenly came alive. He slammed against the crate door, howling with such intensity that the staff froze. The sedative should have kept him docile, but Jasper fought through it, bloodying his paws against the metal bars. His message was clear: separating them wasn't an option. Not now. Not ever. The Pine Ridge team gathered for an emergency meeting. "He's imprinted on that kitten," argued Dr. Tim. "If we release him now, he'll die searching for Marshmallow." But Dr. Lauren noticed something deeper in Jasper's behavior. The way he groomed Marshmallow's fur through the bars mirrored how bobcat mothers care for their young. Then the heartbreaking truth hit her. Jasper had likely lost his own family to trappers. Marshmallow wasn't just a companion, he was the second chance Jasper never expected to get. A violent winter storm knocked out power to the facility. As temperatures plummeted, Marshmallow's incubator began to fail. Through the darkness, staff heard frantic scratching from Jasper's enclosure. Using his powerful claws, the bobcat was tearing up his bedding and pushing it against the glass separating him from Marshmallow, creating an insulating barrier. By morning, the kitten was alive and warm. Jasper, exhausted from his vigil, simply pressed his forehead against the glass when Marshmallow mewed. The staff wept at the undeniable proof. This was love, pure and simple. DNA analysis revealed Jasper's tragic past. Scars showed he'd survived a brutal wolf attack that likely killed his mate. "He's projecting parental instincts," Dr. Tim concluded. But Lindsay disagreed, showing footage of Jasper carefully holding Marshmallow's tiny paw through the bars as the kitten slept. "Look at his eyes," she said softly. The footage showed Jasper's amber eyes filled with something science couldn't quantify, not instinct, but devotion. A wild predator had somehow opened his heart to the most vulnerable creature imaginable. The answer came from Cynthia Grayson, owner of High Plains Wildlife Refuge. After observing the pair, she said quietly, "We keep asking why a wild animal would do this. Maybe the real question is, why wouldn't he?" As arrangements were made to transfer both animals to her sanctuary, Jasper carefully gathered Marshmallow by the scruff, the way bobcats carry their young, and carried him to the back of his enclosure. After everything they'd survived, one truth remained. Their extraordinary bond had rewritten the rules of nature itself. The debate raged for days at Pine Ridge. Dr. Tim insisted Jasper's behavior was just displaced parenting instinct, until security footage showed something extraordinary. During Marshmallow's bottle feeding, the kitten sneezed. Jasper immediately rushed to the enclosure's edge, sniffing anxiously. When Marshmallow resumed eating, the bobcat visibly relaxed. Instinct wouldn't explain that level of concern, Dr. Lauren noted. Even hardened Dr. Tim had to admit this went far beyond textbook animal behavior. Something unprecedented was happening between these two souls. When state wildlife officials demanded Jasper's immediate release, the staff had no choice. As they prepared to sedate him again, Marshmallow began wailing inconsolably. Jasper responded with a sound no one had ever heard from a bobcat, a mournful, keening cry that echoed through the facility. Val Ortega later confessed, "I've euthanized animals with less pain in their voices." The staff exchanged glances. This wasn't just difficult. Felt deeply morally wrong to separate them. The transport team arrived at dawn. Despite heavy sedation, Jasper somehow sensed their intentions. As they opened his enclosure, the 35-pound bobcat mustered every ounce of strength to press Marshmallow's incubator with his body, shielding it. "We'll have to sedate him again," a technician said. Head rehabilitator Zachary Bennett suddenly stepped forward. "No, we can't do this." In that moment, professional protocol collided with something deeper, the undeniable truth that these two beings belonged together. The Wildlife Commission demanded proof. Dr. Lauren provided night vision footage showing Jasper awake at 3:17 a.m., carefully using his teeth to adjust Marshmallow's blanket through the cage bars. The kitten, now strong enough to move, immediately curled against Jasper's paw. Commission head Deborah Wilkes, a 30-year veteran, wiped her eyes. "I've never, in all my years," her voice broke. The next morning, Pine Ridge received special permission Jasper and Marshmallow would stay together. Science had yielded to something greater. When a well-meaning volunteer reached for Marshmallow, Jasper's reaction shocked everyone. Instead of his usual warning snarl, he emitted a guttural, primal sound that made the walls vibrate. "That wasn't just a growl," Zachary said. "That was a declaration." The volunteer stumbled back, pale. In that moment, everyone understood Jasper would die before letting Marshmallow come to harm. The staff exchanged glances. This went beyond animal behavior. This was the fierce, unconditional love of a parent. High Plains Wildlife Refuge nestled in the Cascade foothills, its founder Cynthia Grayson greeting them with knowing eyes. "So these are your star-crossed friends," she murmured, watching Jasper nuzzle Marshmallow through the carrier mesh. Her 50-acre sanctuary specialized in unreleasables, animals too injured or imprinted for the wild. As Jasper cautiously explored his new forested enclosure, Marshmallow toddling beside him, Cynthia smiled. "You're home now." For the first time since his rescue, Jasper's amber eyes showed no fear, only quiet contentment. At High Plains, their bond deepened astonishingly. Jasper taught Marshmallow to hunt feather toys, the kitten pouncing while the bobcat watched with clear pride. At night, they slept curled together in a custom den box. "That kitten believes he's a bobcat," Cynthia laughed, watching Marshmallow mimic Jasper's stalking crouch. But her smile faded as she added, "And Jasper? He's found his purpose again." The once fierce wildcat had become the most devoted guardian imaginable, proving that sometimes the deepest healing comes from unexpected connections. Their 2-acre enclosure became a wonderland of climbing platforms, hidden dens, and sun-dappled clearings. Visitors often gasped seeing the unlikely pair, 12-pound Marshmallow fearlessly climbing onto Jasper's back as the bobcat patiently ambled through their territory. Wildlife photographers documented their daily rituals. Shared meals, Jasper insisting Marshmallow eat first. Play sessions where the bobcat gently wrestled the kitten, and their famous sunset perch where they watched the mountains together. This wasn't captivity. This was a kingdom built on love. The sanctuary staff will never forget that rainy April afternoon. When Marshmallow slipped in the mud, Jasper did something unprecedented. He carefully gathered the shivering kitten in his front paws and carried him to shelter, just as bobcat mothers do with cubs. But instead of releasing him, Jasper began grooming Marshmallow while the kitten purred. They stayed that way for hours. "That's when I knew," Cynthia said tearfully. "This wasn't just bonding. This was family." When National Geographic shared Cynthia's photo of Jasper wrapped around Marshmallow during a thunderstorm, the world took notice. The image, the massive bobcat's protective embrace around the trembling white kitten, went viral overnight. Millions commented on the obvious love in Jasper's eyes. Scientists debated. Religious leaders cited it as proof of divine love. But for Marshmallow, safe in his guardian's arms, the truth was simple: love isn't about species. It's about who shows up when you're afraid. And Jasper always showed up. Bloodwork revealed Jasper's shocking history. His system contained traces of a powerful sedative used by illegal trappers. He wasn't just caught in a trap, Dr. Lauren realized. He watched his mate die first. The same trauma that should have made him fear small creatures instead drew him to Marshmallow. "This isn't displaced parenting," Dr. Tim admitted. "It's two broken souls recognizing each other." Jasper had found another being who understood survival and chosen to protect rather than prey. Behind closed doors, the medical team debated a troubling discovery. Marshmallow had a congenital heart defect. "He may only have a year," Dr. Lauren confessed to Cynthia. But when Jasper began bringing special herbs to Marshmallow, plants bobcats use medicinally, the kitten's vitals improved. "He knows," Cynthia whispered, watching Jasper gently nose the herbs toward Marshmallow. The bobcat wasn't just playing parent. He was fighting death itself for his tiny companion. Forensic analysis of Jasper's scars told a horrifying story. He'd chewed through his own leg to escape a trap 2 years earlier. "This cat has survived hell," Dr. Tim murmured. Yet when Marshmallow climbed too high and got stuck, Jasper didn't panic. He positioned himself beneath the kitten and made a unique chirping sound until Marshmallow safely climbed down. "That's not instinct," Cynthia noted. "That's trust earned through trauma." The two survivors spoke a language only the broken understand. Against protocol, the team tested their bond. When Marshmallow was briefly housed with other kittens, Jasper refused food for 3 days. When reunited, the bobcat carefully inspected Marshmallow before emitting a sound never documented in bobcats, a happy trill. "That's a social bonding vocalization," Dr. Lawrence said in awe. "Between species that should be predator and prey." The results were undeniable. This wasn't circumstance. It was choice. State wildlife officials argued Jasper was too wild to live with a domestic animal. The sanctuary received a removal order until 50,000 supporters flooded their offices with letters. "We're not separating them," Cynthia declared at the hearing, showing footage of Jasper tenderly cleaning Marshmallow's face. Even the stone-faced commissioner blinked back tears. The order was rescinded with one condition: never let the public forget this story. They wouldn't. When Marshmallow developed pneumonia at 6 months, the vets prepared for the worst. Jasper refused to leave his side, wrapping his body around the kitten's shaking form for 72 straight hours. When Marshmallow finally opened his eyes, Jasper licked his face with frantic relief. "I've seen human parents less devoted," Dr. Tim confessed. Against all odds, Marshmallow recovered because Jasper simply wouldn't accept any other outcome. Sanctuary cameras captured the extraordinary lesson: Jasper hiding behind a log, then demonstrating the perfect pounce for Marshmallow. When the kitten copied the move perfectly, Jasper rubbed against him in approval. "He's teaching survival skills to a domestic cat," Cynthia marveled. But the most touching moment came after, Jasper presenting Marshmallow with a feather prey, then stepping back to let the kitten take the glory. Not just teacher and student. Family. When a blizzard collapsed part of their enclosure, staff found them the next morning. Jasper had dug a snow cave and lay curled around Marshmallow, his body heat keeping the kitten alive. The bobcat's paws were frostbitten, his coat matted with ice. Yet when rescuers approached, his only concern was nuzzling Marshmallow awake. "That cat would have died for him," a rescuer said later. The miracle? He almost did, and considered it a fair trade. Security footage showed the terrifying moment, a coyote scaling their enclosure fence at 2 a.m. Before staff could respond, Jasper erupted into action. He scooped Marshmallow up by the scruff and vaulted them both onto a 12-foot-high platform no one thought he could reach. For 3 hours, he stood guard over the trembling kitten, his fur bristled and fangs bared. When the coyote finally retreated at dawn, Jasper groomed Marshmallow for 20 straight minutes, checking every inch for injuries. During Marshmallow's annual exam, Jasper paced anxiously outside the treatment room. When the kitten meowed in distress, the 40-pound bobcat shattered a reinforced glass window to reach him. "I should be furious," Dr. Lauren said, watching Jasper frantically lick Marshmallow's face. Instead, she found herself crying. "We study animal behavior for decades thinking we understand love. Then something like this happens, and we realize we don't know anything." In that moment, science bowed to something greater. The scientific community initially dismissed Jasper and Marshmallow as anomalies, until their bond sparked groundbreaking research. Universities launched cross-species behavior studies, while wildlife rehab protocols were rewritten to account for emotional imprinting. Dr. Lauren presented their case at an international conference, showing footage of Jasper sharing food with Marshmallow, a behavior never documented in solitary predators. "They weren't mistakes of nature," she declared. "They were teachers." Even skeptics admitted love could rewrite biology. After Jasper and Marshmallow's story went viral, lawmakers introduced the Bond Act, legislation preventing the separation of animals with documented emotional ties, even across species. Cynthia testified before Congress, holding up a photo of Jasper grooming Marshmallow. "Would you tear apart family because they look different?" she asked. The bill passed unanimously. Their legacy? Thousands of animals, from deer bonded with goats to owls raised by foxes, would now stay together. All because a bobcat refused to let go of a kitten. Against all odds, Marshmallow thrived. At age 3, far surpassing his predicted lifespan, he still slept curled against Jasper's chest every night. Sanctuary visitors often gasped seeing the white cat confidently strutting beside his massive guardian, mimicking Jasper's regal posture. "He thinks he's a bobcat," Cynthia laughed. Blood tests showed his heart defect had stabilized. Vets credited Jasper's constant care. The kitten who should have died in weeks was now teaching the world about resilience. When Jasper passed at 14, ancient for a wild bobcat, sanctuary staff prepared for the worst. But Marshmallow surprised them. Instead of grieving, he began comforting other orphaned animals, just as Jasper had done for him. He'd nuzzle trembling fox kits or share food with injured fawns. Jasper taught him how to love, Cynthia realized. The fierce protector's final lesson? Kindness is contagious. Marshmallow would spend his remaining years passing it on. A Vietnam veteran named David visited the sanctuary weekly, sitting silently by Jasper and Marshmallow's enclosure. One day, he finally confessed, "After my PTSD diagnosis, I hadn't spoken in 2 years. Then I saw Jasper, this creature who'd survived hell but still chose love." His first words in 24 months had been to the bobcat, "I get you." David later became a counselor for traumatized veterans, using their story as proof even the most broken souls can heal. Scientists debated Jasper's behavior for years. Was he an outlier? Or proof that animals are more complex than we thought? Footage of him letting Marshmallow win their play fights, pulling punches no wild predator would have suggested the latter. He didn't just tolerate that kitten, Dr. Tim admitted. He cherished him. Jasper's life forced a radical question. What if wild doesn't mean merciless? What if nature's real survival tactic is love? The academic feud made headlines. Traditionalists argued Jasper's behavior was hormonal. Progressives cited MRI scans showing his brain lit up like a human parent's when Marshmallow meowed. The turning point? A renowned skeptic visited the sanctuary and witnessed Jasper panic when Marshmallow briefly went missing. The scientist later published a retraction. Emotion isn't exclusive to humans. It's the universal language of those who care. National Geographic's final photo of the pair broke the internet. It showed an elderly Jasper, his muzzle gone gray, resting his head on Marshmallow's back as the cat licked his ear. The caption, "Family isn't DNA. It's who you'd bleed for." The image became a symbol of adoption, cross-species harmony, and unconditional love. Schools used it to teach empathy. Hospitals displayed it in pediatric wards. And somewhere, a lonely bobcat and a once-dying kitten proved love doesn't play by the rules. Statistically, both should have died young. Jasper from his injuries, Marshmallow from his illness. Instead, they thrived for years, their bond deepening with age. When Jasper's arthritis made climbing difficult, Marshmallow stayed on the ground with him. When Marshmallow's breathing faltered on cold nights, Jasper's warmth stabilized him. They weren't just surviving, Cynthia said. They were rewriting what's possible. Their secret? Simple. Together was always enough. After Jasper's passing, Cynthia found something astonishing. His favorite den box contained a collection. Marshmallow's lost whiskers, a snippet of white fur from his first groom, even a tiny collar bell the kitten had once worn. The BobCat had been curating keepsakes. This, Cynthia whispered through tears, is how animals grieve, how they love. She placed the items in a shadow box beside Jasper's memorial. The plaque read, "Security cameras captured the chilling scene, a shadowy figure scaling the sanctuary fence at 3 a.m. armed with a tranquilizer gun. Jasper took 3 darts defending Marshmallow before collapsing. The assailant? A disgraced researcher determined to prove their bond was a hoax. As staff rushed Jasper to surgery, Marshmallow did something unprecedented. He stood guard over his protector, hissing at anyone who came near. The researcher's final report? A single sentence. Sanctuary staff were stunned when Marshmallow, presumed sterile, showed up one morning with 3 tiny kittens in tow. DNA tests revealed the impossible. He'd fathered them with a stray female. But the real miracle? Jasper's reaction. The aging BobCat immediately began grooming the newborns, even carrying one gently by the scruff when it strayed too far. He's a grandfather now, Cynthia laughed through tears. The kitten who shouldn't have lived was now teaching the next generation with Jasper's help. When a documentary crew reviewed 2,000 hours of unaired footage, they found the moment that explained everything. 5 years earlier, a frail Marshmallow had curled against Jasper's chest during a thunderstorm, and the BobCat's breathing had synced to the kitten's, slowing his own heart rate to calm him. Veterinarians confirmed it. Jasper had literally regulated his body to comfort Marshmallow. This isn't just affection, the narrator whispered. This is physiological love. The clip went viral with one caption. When Jasper disappeared into the sanctuary's wooded area, staff feared the worst until he returned with a mangled teddy bear clutched in his jaws. Security footage revealed the truth. He'd crossed 2 creeks to retrieve it from a donation bin, remembering it was Marshmallow's favorite as a kitten. Now half-blind with arthritis, Jasper had risked everything to bring comfort to his aging friend. The bear was placed between them that night, and for the first time in years, Marshmallow needed it like a kitten again. A tech mogul arrived unannounced, waving a $5 million check to buy Jasper for his private zoo. When Cynthia refused, he sneered, "That BobCat's just an animal. He'll forget the cat in a week." As if on cue, Marshmallow, now 14 and nearly deaf, let out a weak meow. Jasper, who hadn't moved in hours, immediately limped to his side and began grooming his face. The billionaire left without another word, but his assistant stayed behind. "I think," she said quietly, "we just witnessed a miracle." In their final year together, a volunteer captured the pair at sunset. Jasper, nearly 16, rests his head on Marshmallow's back as the cat, now white-muzzled, leans into him. Their breathing sinks. Jasper's paw, once capable of killing a deer, gently cradles Marshmallow's frail body. Then, impossibly, the BobCat licks the cat's face exactly as he did their first day together. The video ends with Marshmallow purring, a sound Jasper hadn't heard in years. The caption? On the anniversary of Jasper's passing, Dr. Lauren revealed a secret. Marshmallow's congenital heart defect had been terminal. "I told Cynthia he had a year. The truth? 3 months, max." Yet Marshmallow lived 6 more years, a fact she credits to Jasper. That BobCat didn't just comfort him. He healed him. Every night, Jasper's purring stimulated Marshmallow's vagus nerve, slowing his heart rate. Her voice broke. "I lied because I needed to believe it too, that love really could work miracles." The morning after Jasper died, staff found Marshmallow lying atop his favorite den box, but not grieving. The old cat was bathing 3 orphaned BobCat kits using the same grooming techniques Jasper had taught him. When Cynthia tried to intervene, Marshmallow blocked her with a hiss. Oh, she realized. You're not saying goodbye. You're keeping your promise. For 137 days, until his own peaceful passing, Marshmallow raised Jasper's successors. His final act? Curling up in Jasper's old spot and purring them to sleep. Visitors still leave wildflowers at their paired headstones beneath the ponderosa pine. Some bring cat toys. Others handwritten notes about how Jasper and Marshmallow mended their broken families. But the most poignant tribute? A single framed photo left by an anonymous donor, a time-lapse of their 12 years together. Today, their enclosure stands preserved at High Plains, now a classroom for at-risk youth. The current resident? A one-eared lynx who grooms a 3-legged fox. Jasper and Marshmallow taught us to look deeper, Cynthia tells each group. As children watch the unlikely pair play, she whispers what's become the sanctuary's creed.